Hanjo. Afternoon, everybody. Oh, pollen season, baby. Yeah, I want to just mention something today in memoriam, shall I say? I don't know. I guess so. You gonna put a blinker on or nothing? Anyway, yeah, that's in memorial of that guy's blinker. Yeah, this past, geez, was it yesterday? Anyway, we the Earth lost a great human being in Bill Walton. So Bill Walton, a lot of people see Bill Walton as a larger-than-life character. I see him as a larger life, not larger than life, but a larger life. And he certainly was that. And if you study his life story, it is not a quick read. There's a lot to it, and a lot of really deep growth, suffering, adaptation, and perseverance. There's some attributes, just a few of the many positive attributes of the late great Bill Walton. A larger life character. I first got to know Bill Walton, not personally, but as a Boston Celtics fan when he came to the team when I was a kid. And you know, the Celtics had a real good run, especially through the 80s. So I got to know Bill Walton. He got traded to the team. I forget who they lost for Bill Walton, but I'll tell you, they didn't lose anything because they ended up winning it all that season. And yeah, Bill Walton, of course, you know, cut his teeth really playing with John Wooden. Sorry, Wooten. Sorry, Victor Wooten. I'm thinking jam bands right now. You know what I'm saying? I'm thinking live music. No, John Wooden, the great UCLA coach, who I have referred to often, whose first lesson to his team was, you know, how to put your socks on right. You know, and if you could get through that lesson, man, you could conquer the world. And I'll tell you, Bill Walton conquered the world thanks to amazing teachers like John Wooden. You know, Bill Walton is renowned for a lot of things, not just basketball related. He's probably one of the biggest Grateful Dead fans at his stature. And I know that when I last heard an interview with him, he had attended over 800 Grateful Dead concerts. And you know, that's again, we're talking perseverance, right? But that is a beautiful thing. I think about the Grateful Dead, and they're kind of like, there's a lot of people that love the band and are devoted through and through, and have, you know, bootlegs and bootlegs and bootlegs. And there's the rest of the world, which is the multitude, actually says, this stuff is trash, how can you listen to it, right? But it's one of those cases where, you know, you can hate on them and whatever, but once you start playing live music, you know, if you get with a band and you're actually with them long enough to develop chemistry, real musical chemistry, then you might start to appreciate, like, oh, I get it now. And you don't have to like the music, but man, you gotta respect it. And you can see why people would seek after, you know, 100 bootlegs of the same song, you know. And so I'll say that, you know, having not been the biggest Grateful Dead fan, but a massive appreciator of music, and a player of live music. Boy, there's a lot of scuzz on the road today, gotta be careful. I'll end up joining old Bill. But you know, I've grown to really appreciate them over the years, and somewhat lyrically as well. you know, although I can't say I know their catalog inside and out, there's a few songs that I really enjoy and have enjoyed over the years. And I think the first time I really, well, this isn't the first time, but I think the first time many of the National Basketball Association audience became aware of Bill's Grateful Dead fascination was, you know, during his broadcast, when he became a broadcaster. He had a stutter problem, and yeah, more common than you might think. And all right, James Earl Jones, and yeah, there's a bunch of people out there. You could just forget it. Like, I'm trying to ride here and not think. So you can look up, you know, stutterers who have overcome their stutter to become great speakers. And Bill Walton, I feel, was a great speaker, and he was not afraid to quote Grateful Dead lyrics in his broadcasts. And like the first time I was aware of all of these like little Easter eggs he was leaving in his broadcast was watching a game, and he was quoting this thing. I was like, what is that? So I went up and I looked it up, and it was a Grateful Dead song, Standing on the Moon. And he was quoting, you know, on the back porch in July, and you know, the moon being a crescent and everything. And it was really, really poignant song. And Standing on the Moon, as I recall, was written, you know, sort of about the showman's life, the performer's life, the traveling musician's life. You know, you're standing on the moon, you're standing on stage, but you might as well be on the moon. You know, everything is far away, and you're aware of the workings of the world, but it's another man's world. It's the earthling's world, and you know, you've long since ceased to dwell on earth the way most earthlings dwell. You know what I mean? So that concept of standing on the moon, and I feel like that resonated with Bill because he was a professional athlete for his life, and after that he was a professional broadcaster, and he did a number of other things too. He wrote a couple of books, at least one of which I've read, and it was wonderful, his autobiography. And I feel like, yeah, professional athletes can fall into that as well, you know, that moon syndrome. You know, you start off in the same planet, but then something happens along the way, and you realize you're kind of you don't really walk the same plane that most people do, you know, which can be quite a challenge for a lot of people. But Bill, you know, Bill had music, right? And so you know, in the midst of all of the horrific injuries he suffered over his career, I mean, heck, at one point his back essentially collapsed, you know, his like spinal column, and he needed rods and screws and all kinds of stuff just to hold his skeleton together, you know. And in spite of that, he had music and live music, and he was the type of music fan that would not be denied. You know, I heard stories about him, you know, he'd be standing in the front rows at Grateful Dead concerts. People can't see over him. The guy's like around 7 feet tall, this big redhead guy, and nobody could see anything. So the joke was like they had to invite him to the side stage, you know, on stage with him, just so people could see. But yeah, a more faithful fan, it would be difficult to find. A more faithful fan who's in full control of his mind, it would be hard to find. You know, and I've read that he ended up joining them on drums a couple times, or at least once, and man, just really, really cool stuff. And I love that he quoted from musicians, quoted from artists on, you know, and you know, people are watching you know, the NBA, and there's a lot of people that didn't like his commentary style, like, would just call the game, we don't need all this stuff. But it's like, you know what, stuff it. You can learn something listening to people who are passionate about something and sharing their passion, whether you want to hear it or not, right? There's something to be learned. And I had never heard Standing on the Moon until Bill quoted from the song. So of course I went and sought it out and listened to a few versions of it, and you know, analyzed the lyrics, and I found it to be quite a poignant song, you know, and certain themes in that resonate with me as well, in the way my life is sort of twisted and turned, and you know, is kind of turned into what it is now, whatever that is. So, you know, God bless you, Bill Walton. And yeah, when I learned that he had passed, he had colon cancer from what I read, that's pretty tough. You know, you get screened for that now, you know, and you really ought to, because he wasn't an old man, and you know, I would have liked to hear him as he continued to evolve and grow as a human, you know. And yeah, we don't get that chance, but you know, hey, that's the way it goes. And there's a guy that absolutely savored and wrung every last drop out of his life here, and that is an admirable trait, an admirable story, and worth considering, I would say, as we you know, contemplate what is it we spend our time doing, what is it we take a risk on sharing, and who we risk reaching out to and making contact with, or complimenting, or you know, something like that, asking help from. You know, you never know. Anyway, that's it. Just wanted to mention Bill Walton, and you know, the fondness I had for who he was as a player, of course, but certainly as a human being, and as a devout music fan. Yeah, it's real cool, and you know, it's another one down, you know. So you gotta appreciate them while they're here, folks. So who's out there now that you haven't reached out to, or you haven't voiced appreciation for, but they're still here, and they might benefit from hearing that? Why don't you take a minute and pause and think on that for a minute. You know, maybe there's someone you can reach out to this week who could use a little pat on the back, you know, or a little appreciation while they're still here with us. All right, guys, Matt the Greeter, care about you, and I'll talk to you soon. Rest easy on that back porch in July, big fella. See you in the next life.